Welcome. This is the next episode in my series, It's So Hot That, the antidote to those silly videos you see on YouTube where people cherry pick local cold weather events in order to try to prove that the whole globe is cooling when in fact it is warming. We also have idiots come along claiming that the sun is about to go into a grand solar minimum and catapult us into a new ice age where we will all freeze to death. These are the events they don't want you to hear about. These are the local warming events. And we can come up with 3, 4, 5 of these for every one cold weather event that they can come up with. In other words, these are the events they don't want you to hear about. You might be forgiven for thinking that when you see ice on the ground that there is a cold weather event going on. However, one form of ice, namely hail, is nothing to do with cold weather. It's in fact a high temperature event. Strong thunderstorms caused by updrafts of hot air from the ground take raindrops high into the atmosphere where they freeze and fall back to the earth as hail. We've had 2 examples of strong hailstorms so far this week, one in southern Europe, particularly in Austria and Turkey, and the other in the western United States in Utah and Colorado. Hot air can carry more water than cold air, so when it rains, it will rain much harder. This leads to flash floods, and Tennessee this week was hit with devastating flash floods. They got up to 12 inches of rain, which is about 30 centimeters, causing floods in places 7 feet deep, that's over 2 meters. 21 people so far are reported dead, and there are dozens missing. Tropical Storm Henri strengthened to a Category 1 hurricane for a short while last week before making landfall as a tropical storm in the northeastern United States. It impacted New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts and Rhode Island. It had sustained winds of up to 75 miles an hour. Rainfall produced about 10 inches, that's 25 centimeters. And now we have 3 new invest areas heading west across the Atlantic into the Caribbean. When temperatures are high, you have a greater risk of drought, and that's what we're having at the moment in a lot of the United States. There's been an increase in drought conditions across the country. 40% of the US is in moderate to exceptional drought. 23% of the country is in exceptional drought. Both of those conditions have increased slightly since last week. Where you get droughts, you're likely to get wildfires, and that's the case in California at the moment. The 2021 California wildfire season is likely to set new records. It has already passed last year's total for acreage burned. And the problem now is that we're entering the windy season in California, when you usually get the largest and deadliest fires. The Caldor fire has spread to 154 square miles and destroyed 700 homes south of Lake Tahoe. This is an image of the air quality in the shore of Lake Tahoe at the moment. The Dixie Fire, California's largest fire, has now burned over 1,000 square miles and is less than 30% contained. We're even getting wildfires in places that don't usually have wildfires. Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, is now getting wildfires. The Greenwood Lake fire has spread to over 7 square miles, that's 19 square kilometers, and 90 residents have been evacuated from their homes as they become threatened by the fire. These problems are not limited to the United States. The French Riviera is now being ravaged by fire. We've had over 10,000 people evacuated there, 2 have died, and 27 are injured. It's burned over 7,000 hectares, or about 18,000 acres, of forest so far and continuing to spread. Roads have been closed in Phoenix, Arizona as the monsoon season gets underway. Flash flooding has occurred and more rain is expected. For those that think that these weather disasters are somebody else's problem, it hits us all in the pocketbook. NOAA has kept track of the billion-dollar weather disasters since 1980, and there have been 198 of them. Now, this is not just $1 billion. Some of these cost much, much more. This is a chart showing how they've increased. Now, this has been corrected for inflation, so this is not an effect of cheapening money. This is actual increase in the number and cost of these disasters. And these are color-coded. Purple are winter storms. Orange are wildfires. Yellow is tropical storms, i.e. hurricanes. Green are severe storms of various sorts, thunderstorms, etc. Light blue is freezing, dark blue is flooding, and brown is drought. So as you can see, just about all these categories, this has been increasing over the last 40 years. Continuing on the theme of flooding, flooding has now hit Singapore, where they got nearly 4.5 inches of rain in less than a day. Drought is now hitting Syria. There's water shortage for nearly 12 million people. It's the worst drought on record since the records began 70 years ago. This means a lack of drinking water, no water for crops, and power outages. A drought in North Dakota is causing a drop in honey production. Bee colonies are weakening and dying out. This threatens apples, plums, and almond crops at risk across the west of the United States. While the US was being hit by Hurricane Henri, Hurricane Grace hit Mexico twice. Over 18 centimeters and 7 inches of rain fell in some areas. Trees were downed, power outages, there were mudslides, and even building collapses. And 7 are reported dead. More flooding in Africa. Congo, Uganda, and Nigeria have been hit by deadly floods. The Democratic Republic of Congo, houses and roads were destroyed and 1 was killed. In Uganda, it was the 3rd major flood this year, killing 2 people. In Nigeria, crops and farmland were destroyed, 4 are dead, and many more are missing. In one of the strangest stories this week, rain actually fell at the peak of the Greenland ice sheet. This is the first time that rain has ever been recorded there in the last 40 years. The monitoring station is at an altitude of about 3 kilometers, that's about 10,000 feet. So it's very unusual to get rain at those sorts of altitude, particularly that far north. Continuing on the Greenland theme, the leftmost pane here shows the melt area last week on the island of Greenland, and most of that was in the southwest part of the island. The middle frame here shows the cumulative number of melt days so far this year, and you can see that there's almost no area of the sheet that has not actually been subject to some degree of melting. On the right we have a graph comparing various years for the area of melting that's been going on through from June to August. And you can see the 2021 season there is well represented by the dark blue. However, look at the blue circles. There are only 4 of them. That's when melt has been observed at the summit of the Greenland ice sheet. And then the one day that we got rain at the summit is marked by the red circle. So you can just see how unique this situation is. We can quantify all of this by looking at the number of new record highs and compared with the number of new record lows. In the last month, we've had 10,547 new daily record highs compared with just 2,890 new record lows. That's a ratio of about 3 to 1. So the conclusion is that the Earth is still warming. So stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time.